afternoon to our judges and the team. We now have Pinnacle Partners presenting for the internal case competition auditions. Before we begin, please check that the slide deck is yours and that the clicker is working properly. For the presentation format, you will be having a 10 minutes presentation, and the time cards shown will be 5, 3, and 1 minute. Today's entire presentation and the Q&A will also be recorded for further feedback of the team. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, judges. We are Pinnacle Partners, and today we are here to bring TIBEB from an industry leader to a sustainability leader, given the objective to strengthen sustainability and risk management strategies to secure and maintain TIBEB's position as a leader in sustainability. Given this objective, we propose 2 key strategies: bring it in green and bring it back clean. And with this, we're able to achieve these incredible impacts. To start, we understand that TIBEB is already a leader in the food and beverage industry in Southeast Asia and is strongly sustainability forward, with a legacy in being a first mover in sustainability and growth through many acquisitions. This has allowed them to safeguard operations, unlock value, and align with key stakeholders. In today's world, however, sustaining leadership demands constant transformation. Where today TIBEB is a leader in the food and beverage industry with strong sustainability practices, we see a vision where TIBEB is a leader in sustainability as a whole, rooted in the food and beverage industry. But what gaps are preventing this vital transformation? To start, let's map out existing initiatives and see where there's room for improvement. In terms of community and governance, we already see that TIBEB has a strong foot forward as they align with key stakeholders like employees, customers, and investors. So we also took a look at sustainability initiatives in the value chain through 4 key stages: sourcing, where they have supplier screening and a code of practice; production, where they have efforts to reduce water usage and improve energy efficiency; distribution with logistics optimization and the pilot use of EV trucks; and consumption, where they have a closed-loop packaging retrieval system. We were able to identify a major roadblock in the sourcing stage, as there are currently no consequences for non-compliance regarding our suppliers. We determined that unmanaged supplier practices pose the greatest operational, financial, and reputational risk to TIBEB currently for 3 key reasons. Number 1 being that 80% of emissions from TIBEB are from suppliers, and it is their weakest control point, and being able to control sourcing dictates the environmental impact of all downstream stages as well, showing a potential for great systemic leverage. With this, we have identified our first key gap. But we dug even deeper and identified another imperative step to achieving leadership in sustainability. We saw that the major TIBEB sustainability is deeply intertwined with risk management. This makes sense as TIBEB is especially exposed to several uncontrollable risks, the major ones being supply chain disruption, resource volatility, waste liability, and reputational pressures. We were able to determine that the most strategic form of risk mitigation is in creating a fully circular economy. This is because this will be able to address every major issue by reducing dependency on climate vulnerable resources, creating an stable internal material stream, turning waste into assets, and aligning with global trends and ESG demands. With this, we've identified our second gap, and consequently, we will address each gap in our 2 strategies: bring it in green and bring it back clean. And I'm so excited to pass it on to my colleague to tell you more.
So let's dive into our first strategy, bring it in green. So TIBEB has a current supplier screening process in place, yet 80% of greenhouse gas emissions still coming from these suppliers, signaling that the current screening process lacks prioritization for ESG action and preventing TIBEB to actually reduce Scope 3 emission. So what can TIBEB do with it? Let's take a look at what TIBEB currently have. TIBEB is a current leadership in sustainability. They have a very strong expertise in ESG and have a dedicated business unit for it. But when we take a look at our current supplier network, we have up to 3,000 active suppliers operating in very different business scales and in different industries. Some have insufficient resources and expertise, some also unable to see economic benefits to kickstart their ESG journey yet. So the question here becomes, how can TIBEB bridge this gap? Can we leverage any core competency to solve this problem? But to do that, we must be able to answer 3 main things. Who should we target? Second is, what is the current bottleneck? And third is, how can we do with it? So, the first question, who should we target? Using a systematic metrics, we can segment our supplier into 4 main tiers, and we suggested that ThaiBev should deprioritize the low impact tiers and actually put their focus on the tier 1 suppliers due to their highest aggregated impact, and we have a long-standing relationship to negotiate with them. And what is the bottleneck right now? These tier 1 suppliers operate in very different industries, so industry-specific incentives is very critical. They are also very critical to our core businesses, so we must ensure a long-term vision and strategic vision with them. However, ThaiBev is doing the opposite right now. They're employing the one-size-fits-all approach, mainly through TSCN network and other general assessment. This neglect the industry contact and capability of different suppliers, which leads to ineffectiveness of Scope 3 carbon reduction. So, today, Pinnacle Partners suggests ThaiBev to transform this generic approach into a customized partnership consisting of 3 main stages led by our sustainability manager. Starting with the first step, negotiation. We'll be conducting a joint assessment with our suppliers and formulate an actionable plan to ensure that we're signaling them that we're being strategic, not administrative right here, and we're setting a realistic goal together to achieve a good outcome. And for deal settlement, our manager will align GHG impact to commercial agreements, such as contract duration, credit terms, or even green premium, to ensure that we represent the tangible benefits and encourage a long-term commitment to our ESG standard. In terms of monitoring, our manager will provide an ongoing support through consultation and in-person check-in to ensure that executional success is ensured as well as long-term progress is on the track. And in terms of keeping track specifically, our manager will be equipped with a dashboard through TSCN network, providing essential information, and this will reduce complexity on oversight and making sure that the oversight is efficient and effective. And now, ThaiBev will be able to reduce 93.1 carbon reduction as well as avoid the 500 million Thai baht in the future carbon tax. And in terms of next step, ThaiBev can expand these initiatives and explore into co-invest opportunity to ensure 100% net zero by 2040. Moving on to the next strategy.
Moving on to Bring It Back Clean, we focus on how ThaiBev can strengthen their circular economy and also reduce sustainability risk through circular economy is a regenerative economic model where it's prioritized recycling over new raw material intakes. And with this, ThaiBev incorporated in their key goal initiative with our water stewardships, renewable energy adoptions, and also post-consumption recycling. However, this initiative progress differs. As we can see, ThaiBev have tackled both downstream and upstream activities, as well as setting up water usage reduction project. And for renewable energy adoption, it has committed to solar panels and biogas, reducing the reliance on fossil fuels. However, we can see that challenges are still remaining achieving full material recovery. And through this, therefore, we can see that the opportunity lies in strengthening post-consumption recycling system. When we examine deeper into each category, we can see that glass bottle almost operate at a closed loop cycle with 97% retrieval rate. However, only 36% of PET bottle is collected back to ThaiBev. And given its goal to recycle 100% of its beverage packaging, ThaiBev therefore should introduce the target strategies to improve the aluminum and PET bottle recovery rates. Introducing a green bev machine. To address this gap, we would like to introduce a reverse vending machine that allows consumers to return their used aluminum and PET bottles. And the process is simple. Consumer can insert the empty packaging, enter their phone number, and earn the reward points. And through the accumulated points, they can use it as a discount toward any ThaiBev food outlets. And with our RB container identification system, we can enable a higher reward points granted for returning a ThaiBev branded packagings, for example, like Crystal Water or Escola, and while all of the packaging are still accepted, with non-ThaiBev packaging, it's eligible for lower points reward, and this can ensure inclusivity while still focusing on ThaiBev branded products. And it should be strategically located in a high density and high beverage consumption area. And back with our case study, we believe that our Bring It Back Clean strategies can lead to 4 key benefits, which are encourages a sustainable lifestyle, strengthening ThaiBev position as a sustainability leader, and also support the circular economy. And lastly, to drive consumer purchase decision by integrating higher incentive into ThaiBev products.
Thank you, my colleague, for presenting these effective strategies. Now, these strategies have profound impact. Scope 3 carbon emitted by ThaiBev is expected to reduce gradually in the following years. And in 2030, the number is expected to reduce by a whopping 39%. And And now, if we convert this figure into Thai baht, Taipei will be able to save up to 513 million Thai baht in the next 5 years. And this calculation is based on the assumption that carbon tax will come into action within the second quarter of 2026, and carbon is taxed at 200 baht per ton. And additionally, the baseline will be in accordance with the company goal of reaching net zero in 2040. As for the cost, Taipei will incur a total cost of 311 million Thai baht, which 50% will go into investment in long-term assets and 50% will go into daily operation. And to make sure everything goes in according to plan, we are happy to discuss the implementation timeline in the Q&A session. As for risk and mitigation plan, we are also happy to discuss this during the Q&A session. Now, today, Taipei is the food
For
beverage
your
company.
presentation, we will now move on to the 20 minutes Q&A session, where the time cards shown will be 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and 1 minute like usual. The judges may start.
So for both of your strategies, where is it going to be launched?
Where is it going to be launched?
Like which country?
So for my strategy, first we'll focusing on Thailand first, and then we'll go to adjacent countries that currently have the subsidiaries in, which is like APAC specifically. Like maybe if I'm not mistaken, I think we do have some in Vietnam.
And what about your strategy?
For the second strategy, we would like to launch it in Thailand first as well, focusing on Bangkok first, and then if we can expand into capital city through our country that we operate in, like Vietnam and also Malaysia as well.
Okay, maybe for the second strategy, right? Where exactly? You know, a location-wise, where would these be placed, and why?
So maybe I can take that question first. As mentioned, we have a case study to back up our second strategy, which is Albert Heijn. Albert Heijn puts these reverse vending machines in front of grocery stores and in front of residential areas. So we're planning to implement a similar implementation plan. However, we're going to customize it to fit Thailand, and specifically our pilot location, Bangkok, the topography and the cityscape there. So we would put it in front of large condo buildings or places where people typically go grocery shopping. Wherever people can get a plastic water bottle, we want to make sure that a vending machine is there for them to also return it.
Why did you use Albert Heijn as an example? How is it similar or different to Taipei?
Sure. So Albert Heijn is a grocery store, and they piloted their own reverse vending machine initiative in order to comply to Dutch laws about reducing plastic waste. This is something similar to where we see Thai Bev's positioning, as they are also a sustainably forward food and beverage company. And so we see that the reason why we use Albert Heijn as a case study is because they were able to achieve a 95% return rate for large PET bottles and beer cans, proving that this model is very effective. However, we do recognize that there are some differences in the customer demographic. For example, in the Netherlands, a lot of people are much more sustainability aware, much more conscious, and actually willing to take action. So we recognize that there is a slight difference in consumer behavior. However, we still believe that by making it easy and accessible to engage with this kind of reverse vending machine, we can also shift customer behaviors in Thailand as well.
So question on the PET bottles, right? Do they necessarily need to be Thai Bev's product?
So no, the machine can take any PET bottles. However, we provide a higher reward system toward Thai Bev products so that
And
it's
how would that be checked?
so actually the reverse vending machine have a lot of barcode system, and it can also and the machine also have AI analytic system and also high-speed camera that can capture the size and the barcodes and also the weights of the product, and it can ensure that it can be separated by brand and granted different tier of reward.
And to add on to my colleague, this is definitely proven to be possible as Albert Heijn adopts a similar model, where you can only return bottles purchased from Albert Heijn, meaning that you can distinguish that there's technology capable of distinguishing where a bottle has been bought, whether or not it is a part of a brand that we accept or not.
Okay, I understand for aluminum, right? Because it's like printed on the bottle. What about the PET bottles? Because I don't know if there's like a difference in the packaging between like Netherlands PET bottles and Thailand PET bottles, right? Because if the label is just cut off, how can you even identify that this is from Thai Bev?
So as you can see, the plastic bottle have different design, thousands of pictures per second, and it can use that picture to scan and analyze what is the design of this PET bottle, and it can refer to the brand. And also our tank also have plastic bottle, just like any other brand, and it can be differentiated.
So what are the costs to install these?
Yes, the cost for installing this machine, we would obviously buy this machine as we have high amount of free cash flow. So the cost of buying this machine will be 80,000 per machine, and we are expecting to have approximately 550 machines by the end of 2030.
And you're gonna put it in where?
So we look into two area. So first, it's also like consumer behavior. So first, for single plastic uses, we would like to put it in constantly high daily beverage consumption area like university campus, maybe in July, Lumgon Mahin Canteen, where when consumer finish their drink, they can go straight up to the machine and redeem the rewards. And also in the residential area where they can collect it as bulk, as many packagings, and redeem it at once. So it's suitable for all.
But why would ThaiBev be the one running this? There's other initiatives going on as well. Other beverage manufacturers also have similar ideas. Retail players, Thai Siam what already does it to an extent. In front of Paragon, you can also see it. And don't forget that ThaiBev is part of a larger conglomerate, which includes retail, a significant retail business. So have you thought about that to refine the implementation?
Yes, so I'll take this question, and my teammate is obviously happy to add on to my answer. So as you can see earlier, there are many. Could I have the question again, please?
What did you understand from my question?
I understand that you asked. So why is ThaiBev the one running this vending machine?
So why would I ask the question?
Yes, so ThaiBev is the one running this machine is because we believe that the carbon emitted, scope 3 carbon emitted by the supplier from ThaiBev, which will be later taxed in the future, by implementing this vending machine, the benefit outweigh the cost. So we believe that ThaiBev is obviously the one who should be running it to save.
But it's a huge cost to do it all alone, create your own ecosystem, buy the vending machines, run the logistics to do the recycling, set up the app to do the point system. When there's other partnerships you can pursue with other beverage manufacturers, with other retailers, or even within the Thai ecosystem, the 0-100 Patti family, they own Big C, right? There's all scales of retail you could do. It's probably even more makes sense to integrate in what Big C is doing. So why is Thai doing it alone?
Maybe I can take that question. So to clarify on our stance a little bit, we are recommending that ThaiBev implement these vending machines and brand it as a ThaiBev initiative. However, we recognize that they can leverage their existing competencies such as their retailer partnerships and them being a part of a larger conglomerate to not only help fund but also to connect them with the right partnerships that will allow them to bring this vending machine system to life. I do want to touch back a little bit more on your earlier question about why ThaiBev, why does ThaiBev have to do this? Why is it imperative to ThaiBev's sustainability initiatives? And I'd like to expand on my colleague's question by stating that there are two key reasons on why this is imperative for the future of sustainability of ThaiBev. Number one is that there's currently a very large retrieval rate gap between PET bottles and other kinds of materials that ThaiBev is currently manufacturing. And furthermore, this gap is directly linked to something that has a huge impact on ThaiBev's future, which is carbon emissions. As in the case booklet, it is stated that carbon emissions from PET bottles are much more than other materials like glass or aluminum, and that makes this gap in retrieval rate very critical, which is why it's also critical for ThaiBev to tackle this problem directly.
Before I move on, just one last question. On the customer side of scope 3 emissions, you see this as one key lever that you want to pull, so increase the recycling rate for PET. If assuming you get it up to 95% or so over the next decade, would that allow you to fully reduce scope 3 emissions on the customer side, or what's still remaining?
Yes, so we will be able to reduce the scope 3 carbon from the supplier side. So obviously, as ThaiBev order more and more cans, we are going to incur we can obviously not order as much as we used to, and we can, from our research standpoint, we can reduce the carbon emitted in the next years.
Yes, and to add on, as Opal has mentioned before, that 80% of our greenhouse gases is from the supplier, and therefore, by strengthening the circular economy, the waste that is being used again instead of taking into new raw material into our system, and by that we can be more stable in our own company as well.
Just want to understand it a bit. So your the circular economy overall, right? So do you have any data point showing that the water-related initiatives and the renewable energy adoption is already like at capacity, so that you need to focus on this instead of like trying to improve on the like water management or like the other initiatives?
So yes, through our research from the TIBEF database, we can see that for their water stewardship initiative, they have managed both upstream and downstream activity, and they have already operated very strongly in that area. Also, there's a
How
lot
do you
of
compare it with other peers or competitors?
repeat.
Okay, so I can add on to my colleagues. So there's a benchmark that TABEP is currently listed on, like Dow Jones ESG and stuff like that. And that's one of the key metrics that we can track, that TABEP is currently doing quite far better than our competitors in terms of Thai conglomerate.
But that's on the overall sustainability initiative, not particularly like the water management or like the renewable energy. So just trying to understand whether you see that there are actually gaps, in those things, or you just like, I don't know, like just want to understand how deep you really like thought into those points.
Okay, maybe I can take that question first, and my colleague can add on with additional details later. So one of the reasons why we focus more on the circular economy rather than water stewardship is because we saw a lot of proactive measures from TIBEF regarding water stewardship already, including one, their initiative in Vietnam, where they recently acquired a beverage company, and then they were able to optimize supply chain relations in terms of water stewardship with that. And they also have a similar model coming out in Malaysia soon, which I believe my colleague might be able to elaborate on further. But before I get to that, another reason why we decided to prioritize circular economy is because we saw that it would be able to greatly mitigate certain risks. For example, resource cost by volatility or reputational risks, and also being able to, it also allows TIBEF to be able to engage with their customers further and increase their reputation in ESG.
Yes, and to add on, as my colleague have said, for the water stewardships, they have acquired an international standard that the water discarded from the company is safe and is at a very minimal level. And also in Vietnam, they have built a rainwater harvesting system where they can use the resources in circular economy, and also they have a lot of shift in operation. For example, from sugar cube, they turn into sugar liquid to reduce the water for the dissolvement of the sugar. And for renewable energy adoption, you can see that they have a lot of transition around to renewable energy sources, and it has been ongoing. However, for the post-consumption recycling, the gap is very large, and PET bottle is undeniably a very it's integrated in our everyday activities and part of our life. Therefore, we believe that by our strategy, it can address the problem and fill the gap and strengthen the overall initiative of them achieving a full circular economy for TIBEF.
Compound strategy.
Okay, me too. But before that, let's take a step back, a more strategic question. The ultimate goal, at least within the sustainability area for TIBEF, is to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2040. That's 14 years away. Do you think that to get there, it's required the current existing technologies and processes that TIBEF is working on will get them there, or you have to depend on new technologies, new processes, things that don't exist yet or haven't been implemented by the key players in the world yet? Is it the former or the latter?
So to clarify your question, you're asking that in order to achieve the greater goal of achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2040, does TIBEF need to do anything differently with their research and development, technological improvement, or should they stay on the same track?
Sort of. Basically, your two strategies mainly refer to things that exist. Recycling initiatives, working with suppliers to do an audit of their own greenhouse gases, find ways to reduce it using the current technologies, things like that, right? But I'm saying that you still have 14 years to go. Are there anything that we should be more proactive, things that maybe the risk management committee or the sustainability committee of the company has not flagged yet, but is something that you think they should put on their radar and invest in or give attention to? And what are those?
Okay, so maybe I can take this question first, and my colleagues can add on later with our next steps. So we do recognize that in order to continually adapt to the rapidly shifting world in sustainability, one key thing that TIBEF has to be able to do is ensure great relationships with their suppliers and their partnerships, because these suppliers and partnerships and their entire ecosystem is going to be what will make them readily available, readily ready to adapt to any shifting needs in technology in order to remain competitive. One strategy that we mentioned briefly that may address this would be in our Bring It Green strategy in our next steps. We suggest a co-invest structure that could maybe lead to more technological developments that can help TIBEF stay competitive in this industry.
Can you explain more about co-invest?
Yes, so co-invest is the program that TIBEF can joint invest in some infrastructure in the industry-specific context. For example, if it's PET bottle, maybe we can kind of invest in optimizing the compressor of the bottle and stuff like that. And to repay this investment, we'll use a repayment to secure a long-term contract to ensure that the investment is repaid and we're gaining a stable price from our suppliers. So this will be a win-win strategy within the next incoming futures that we can do.
To add on to that, if you actually take a look back at the sustainability report from TIBEF in 2023, 24, and 25, the sustainability report, although it seems like company have a goal, but they're actually not moving into that direction to reach the goal of being net zero in 2040. So we believe that by implementing the technology that we already have, plus the next step is implementing the new technology, would help TIBEF or help TIBEF to reach toward that goal in the future.
But you mentioned next step in the new technology, but what you're saying here is not really a new technology. It's just investing more money into existing initiatives.
Okay, this initiative does not confine to existing initiatives or technology. We may be able to joint invest with our critical suppliers, or maybe in tier 1 that we put lots of business relevancy into, and we might be able to look into innovative technology that can help reduce greenhouse gas emission, as well as other ESG as a whole as well. And with that being said, the reasons that I put this as a next step, that we want to ensure that we have a strong foundation first before we actually put a lot of capex into investment.
I understand all of that, but to be more specific, are there any specific technologies that you think it's very relevant for TIBEF to invest in the future or co-invest with their partners and suppliers?
Okay, currently we do not have a very deep research on what exact technology, but I will give you some industry example.
Yeah.
So for the PET or maybe a glass bottle, there's a boiling machine, and some of them are already being decarbonized by certain suppliers or some manufacturer of that specific machine. And there are also some certain technology to keep track of the carbon throughout the compressor process as well as the boiling process to get the packaging. And that could be one of the ways that we can co-invest in these kind of technology.
With our time remaining, maybe me and Vipin can jointly ask as well. For the first strategy, I start off first for how you choose your tier 1 suppliers. Take us through very quickly how you actually achieve tangible carbon reduction impacts by working with your tier 1 suppliers.
Okay,
Which tier 1 suppliers and how's the process?
Okay, definitely. So the current screening process that TIBEF has is based purely on business relevancy and the ESG risks, which does not consider the aggregated impact of each suppliers. And we decided to remeasure this by using a systematic metrics that focusing on aggregated impact, both in terms of ESG risks and business relevancy, to ensure that we're targeting the right partner first, and ensure that with these two metrics, we can ensure that to tackle this group, we'll be able to reduce a significant portion of greenhouse gas emission, as well as stay very conservative in terms of our carbon emission in the future. And that's one of the ways that we can ensure this.
But it seems like you're leading this initiative, but sometimes these suppliers are also very large themselves. They don't only supply to TIBEF,
Yes.
They might supply to other players as well. So how do you manage that? They might say that we're already working on this with another manufacturer. And then in your monitoring and auditing, it seems to be a TIBEF dashboard. Why would they even agree to sign up and feed you information?
Okay, I'll take the first part of the question first. So tier 1 suppliers does not mean that the business operating in a large scale. As I mentioned, that currently TIBEF screening suppliers is based on ESG rigs also, and that does not mean that the current suppliers have the infrastructure or already been participating with other suppliers. Therefore, we might be able to tap into this group specifically within a tier 1 supplier to get that impact out. And for the second question is, would they be partnering with us? So there's two main reasons. The first one is they're very critical to our core businesses, and we're also very critical to them. So we do have some negotiation power. And the second one is that TIBEF is a leading industry within the sustainability industry. So TIBEF is the current leader. So we do have this very strong expertise in comparison to other players within the industry. And the third reason is that carbon tax is very imminent, and this will ensure the win-win relationship with TIBEF and with our suppliers to prevent the preventable carbon tax expense in the future.
Okay, thank you so much, team. The results and feedback will be distributed within this week. Have a